hair. In fact, when I went to Italy one time, I was getting on the bus, and Tony Falacci, who is our, Stephanie's Italian Papa, she calls him, who helps puts the tours together. I went to get onto the bus, and all of a sudden my head was going back. He grabbed a hold of my hair and pulled on it, thinking he was going to be pulling off a wig. And my whole neck snapped back, and she snapped a shot. And I am laughing so hard. It's my favorite picture of all time because it didn't hurt. But he said, "I thought your hair was fake." And I go, "No, believe it or not, this is all my hair, It's all mine." So welcome to the Friday afternoon program of the Pulpwood Queen Girlfriend Zoomathon Slumber Party Book Club Convention. And I am thrilled because we're coming back with a fabulous keynote who is an amazing woman. This is Cary Broussard, who started this wonderful program to recognize women in business and women who were running companies that were doing outstanding work of paying it forward. So you can't imagine my surprise when I found out I was nominated for this Cinderella to CEO award. I hadn't heard about it. It was brand new. And I got nominated by Claire Fullerton, who'd come to Girlfriend Weekend. And she just has been singing my praises ever since. I don't know what I'd do without. Where have you been all my life? I mean, she's changed the trajectory of everything for me because I got nominated to go. And the trip to New York City was fraught with, I think, pre-COVID, maybe premonitions because I got stuck in airports where I stood all night with thousands of people. There were no seats. There was no way to charge my phone. And I've got to tell you this because I now work for Echo as the director of acquisitions. But what happened was Echo Garrett lives just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I got stuck there going in and stuck there coming back. And she saw that I was stuck at the airport and was going to be there all night. And she emails me and says, "I've got to come and pick up Connor. I'll pick you up at the same time and you can come back to my house." And I said, "Well, my flight goes out. I'll take you back. At least you can take a shower, lay down for a little bit." By God, she drove the 40 minutes or whatever it took to come and get me. I went to her house, took a shower, and I mean, as soon as I laid my head on the pillow, I was being woke up so I could go back to the airport. But I cannot ever thank her enough because there was literally no place to sit. So, and it was the same way, and a tornado hit New York. I'm telling you, I never slept for 48 hours, but got dressed practically in the taxi cab. But I went to this event in New York because of this woman, Cary Broussard, who started this program, recognizing at first 220 women CEOs. And I actually changed, instead of the founder of the Pulpwood Queens now, I put, because of you, CEO and founder of the Pulpwood Queens.
Hey.
That's all because of you, Cary. And you have really changed my life. And you are changing women's lives in America because you're getting recognition for them. It's been just like Lauren Moreno said, in only 17 women, and really only 14 of them of 100 are recognized as some of the best books written in the world. It's a very small percentage, but I'm done talking. I want to hear from you. I want to hear about this, how this all came about. I want to hear about your book and how we're going ahead in the future with this wonderful Cinderella to CEO program. So turning it all over to the wonderful Cary Broussard.
Oh, Kathy, thank you so much. But don't feel like you can't pop in and ask some questions because I would love that.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Claire, for nominating Kathy for the Cinderella CEO Awards, because when she came into the room, and I said this last night, it was, with her long flowing gown. And I have if I share my screen, if I'm allowed to, I'll show a picture of you in, behind the step and repeat, or in front of the step and repeat rather. But I do have a nod. I can't find my crown, y'all. And so I brought my wand.
I have a whole I will get you one. I have a whole collection.
It's around here somewhere, and so I have my, timber is it the Timberman's, what's the male
Timber
version?
guys, timber
The Timber
guys.
Guys hat,
They've been called timber wolves. They've been
Timberwolves
called
hat.
all kinds of different things, but they're basically the few rare men who are big book readers like us. Like, so I'm so excited that all you guys are here. We need to get more of you on board. I
I love it. I
I
think it's
see a lot of
fantastic.
men today, so thank you. Okay.
Thank you, man. And, I never get to wear this hat, so I kinda like it. I bought it because it's a Pharrell Williams happy hat, and it makes me happy.
It makes me
Um,
happy.
so here, this is the book From Cinderella to CEO, and I thought what I would try to do today is kind of tell a little bit of the backstory of the book. And this book was written originally when I was at a hotel company, a corporate hotel company. If you read the book, you can find out, or I may end up telling it at the end of the at the end of my talk. But I'm going to tell you a few behind the scenes stories, so I may not want to tell you which hotel company it is. So this was the first book, meaning I wrote it in 2005, and then I edited it again in 2018. And my publisher was Wiley, and my literary agent was Sanford Greenberger. And you all probably know that better than I do, more about it. But I didn't really know that I wanted to write a book. I just never had the desire, and I don't really know why, but I didn't think I had a story to tell was probably the main thing. And what happened was, because I had started this women's program at a hotel company, and before that had many jobs, which I'll briefly go over those. I wanted to make sure I put a stake in the ground about the work we had done to get women recognized in marketing, and also just in the operations of all sorts of companies. So I do have my bookcase behind me, which is about 1/30th, I think, of Revis's bookshelf, maybe 1/300th, but it's all filled with women's books, and a lot of the books that I bought last year at your Pulpwood Queens event, Kathy. So I look forward to filling that with more. And Adrian's story I thought was great. I love that she said that her grandmother's hair turned white overnight, because God knows mine did too. So I think this is all from the corporate world, but it's definitely, I don't know, I got my hair cut so it looks a little less, I don't know, less gray, whatever, but it is completely white. I started turning gray when I was 21 because it was completely black, and it really didn't have anywhere to go, except people would ask me, "Did you dye your hair black?" And I was like, "No." And then now they ask me, "Do I dye my hair gray or silver or white, whatever color it is?" So, women are always asked about their hair, right? Because I don't know, it's like Samson and whatever, but it is a part of our identity. And of course, it's a part of men's identity. But hair is weird, I guess. But we got it, we have it. So the book has been translated into 10 languages. And I guess it was really about what I wanted to call the book was How to Change the World from Your Desk, because I was a mid-level executive, um, had worked my way up. My career trajectory, if you call it that, was I started at the American Cancer Society, and I was director of public information, easy for me to say, in Memphis, Tennessee. And I didn't want to be a secretary. That was my thing. Like, I want to start with a position. And so I wanted to work for a cause. So I began working for the American Cancer Society. And then lo and behold, I just couldn't take it anymore. Like, I was 20, I don't know what that would have been right out of college, but 21, something like that. And people I was meeting or were meeting, they were dying, and it was just so sad and depressing. And so I quit, and my parents were horrified, and I actually took an interim an interim position, Clary, you'll appreciate this, at Yellow Cab, working for and it was just a month job, thank goodness. But my nickname there, and I was so naive. My nickname I was doing something in dispatch, and the cab drivers nicknamed me Bang Bang. So what does that tell you? Okay, use your imagination.
Okay.
But anyway, I was not Bang Bang, but that was my title. So that was the beginning of me going, okay, I gotta get back on the road to my corporate life. And I had no idea what that meant at the time, by the way. I was like, what does Bang Bang mean? And so anyway, long story short, I ended up, because I had worked at the American Cancer Society and handled the Tennessee press, or handled press in Tennessee, I got a call from somebody that worked for Howard Baker, who was the majority leader at the time of the Senate, and asked if I would interview for a job to be assistant press secretary. It just came out of the blue. And so, of course, I did. I interviewed. The guy flew into Memphis for something else, and I ended up getting this great position. Moved to Washington and made $11,000 a year, and then I was promoted and made $14,000 a year. And I worked in the Capitol building, which was, all of this that's happened lately, as we all know, is traumatizing beyond belief. And so I'm seeing where I worked, in the Capitol building, because I ended up being deputy press secretary there. And it's very telling, what's happened, because I only went on the Senate floor one time. So it's rare that you get to go on the Senate floor. You can go up in the gallery, but I was working, doing a lot of work, things that were. I was very serious about my work, by the way, and that was unusual. It was rampant at the time in the 80s, with just there were no women that were, that I can recall, that were in high positions that would mentor you. There was no human resources. There was nothing like that. So you just had to kind of deal with the sexual harassment in a way that was just, if you're a Southerner, Northerner, whatever it is, you usually came into it like, ah, that's so funny, And I'm going to read an excerpt from my book in a minute, but you basically just had to deal with it. And to be serious about your work was very unusual. And people tell me to this day, like, you were so serious about it. We thought that was funny. And I was like, yeah, I know. So I would follow the press secretary around and go to all the press briefings, and he would just look at me like, you are so obnoxious, but come on, he didn't really want me hanging around. But I was just, I had moved to Washington to be serious about my job, and I was. And so I ended up leaving Washington because my mom was ill. She ended up finding out that she had cancer. So I moved back to Memphis, and I had worked for the American Cancer Society. So I was really the one in the family who knew how to talk about it, deal with it. I knew all the doctors in Memphis. And so because I had worked there, Memphis Arts Council. My mom ended up passing away, and then I got a great every because I was with the Memphis Arts Council. I would every month put the what do you call it, in the window dressing every month. I'd trade it out for the symphony, or whatever it was, the arts spotlight that month. So I met the secretary who worked for the chief marketing officer. She and I were great friends to this day. Well, when they were looking for a director of public relations, she said, why don't you apply for that job? And that's how I got the job, was, by working, just being a good, whatever, nice person, right? She didn't even really know my expertise. So it just worked out great. But what this all comes full circle is, then once I had worked at the Peabody, it was a great job, director of PR, had moved back to Memphis. And then I moved to Dallas, where I am now. And I ended up getting the job of director of corporate communications at for a hotel company called Wyndham. And so all of this came full circle, but there was this thread of that I had gone to girls' school, all girls' school. I had mainly women in my family, 4 girls, 1 boy. And so it was like a combination of, getting into the work world and realizing, well, why aren't women, I was taught and had expressed, able to express myself in the corporate or just in my schooling that women could do anything. And, there was the at home messaging you get, or at least I got, you need to get married. That was, so it was a balance of you need to be educated, you need to do whatever you think you can do, but you got to get married. So that's a real conflict for girls and women, I think probably still today, but it was so much so when I was coming up in the corporate world that we just wanted to use our brain, and girls and boys and men and women, we all want to use our brains, and we all want to be able to express ourselves. So what I think happened, and this is where I was going to read an excerpt, Kathy, from my book that's small, it's just a paragraph, about the fact that when you are experiencing sexual harassment and not feeling like you're able to express yourself in the corporate world, it's stifling. And somewhat of the book, I read it's kind of reading between the lines because I was with the corporation when I wrote it, and I had a co-writer. I want to give her credit, Anita Bell. She did a lot of the fairy tale work in here. But what I wanted to, I think I've got it right here. Okay, so when I helped start a program called Women on Their Way in the male dominated travel industry, it was a controversial move. I had to face skepticism both outside my company and inside. Competitors predicted that the program would be a money pit. One executive would pass by my office and jokingly say, she's the vice president in charge of skirts. Today, the Women on Their Way program is part of an international hotel chain, is the longest running women's travel program in the travel industry. So I don't think it would be the longest running women's program in the travel industry if I hadn't written this book. And it has, and then Claire, you'll appreciate this. I wrote, I know that it's hard for younger women to even believe that business women had to accept a certain amount of shenanigans in the olden days. But some men at that time had not fully evolved into accepting women into many industries and positions. I liken it to the old Monkey Island at the Memphis Zoo. If I were to fall into the moat surrounding Monkey Island, the monkeys would come and explore and be curious about me. They would poke and prod to see what I would take and what I wouldn't take. Some men in the workplace, when I entered it, were akin to those monkeys. No men on this call. I was new to their territory and they were curious. It was my job to set boundaries. And when I started my career in Washington, D.C. in the early 80s, wolves were rampant. And at the time, there was very little you could do except say no, ask a boss for help if you trusted anyone, and quit if the unwanted sexual advances continued. So fortunately, the issue of sexual harassment has come out of the closet. And but I continue to, there was a lot that I couldn't talk about in the book, but I think women can and men can read between the lines, because the premise of the book is that if you can remember uh, the symbolism and the lessons in fairy tales, you can apply them to a situation that you're in the workforce. For instance, there's a woodcutter, obviously, in the Red Riding Hood story. And if we can think of the woodcutter always that there's somebody there who can mentor you, you just have to look for them and find that safety. Uh, there's surrounding yourself with supporters is the sort of the ugly duckling story. Um, And so, I feel like, I think it was Adrian that said, or somebody else, that many of you have said, Lauren Marino in particular, I'm taking copious notes, is that you just, we've got to write the story. And I suppose that's what I was doing at the time. It was like a lightning bolt hit me, struck me, and I knew I had to write the story. And at the time, my boss was going up an elevator and I was coming down the elevator on the other side. And I said, "Hey, Dave, I want to write a story. I want to write a book." And he said, "I think that's a great idea. You know, get back to me when we get back to the office." And so it was just literally this elevator ride of that sliding door. And, that's what happened. So I'm fortunate that he had, took me under his wing. But I thought I'd tell if it's okay, Kathy, and do you want to ask me any questions? Am I
No, you're
okay?
covering it so well.
Okay. So, but when I was with the Peabody Hotel, um, it was in Memphis. There are more of them, but in Peabody, at the Peabody, I took the ducks because that was part of the duck. If you've never been to the Peabody Hotel, there are 5 ducts that go in and out of the fountain to the song or to the tune of King Cotton March. And so at 11 and 5 every day, they come down from the elevator. There's a duck trainer that brings them down the elevator. They walk down into the fountain. They get in the fountain and swim around. And then at 5 o'clock, they hear the music again. They line up and the duck trainer takes them out. So I didn't really know what it took to get the ducks to do all that. So I thought, one, when I was asked to go to LA to see to take the ducks to the premiere of Howard the Duck. Have you all ever seen that movie? It, it is the worst movie ever. But Tim Robbins is in it, and a couple of other stars. I can't remember Caroline. She was in Caroline in the City, I think. Anyway, I went to so that I had to go see the movie to screen it in Memphis. I knew it was the worst movie ever, but I was like, I'm going to LA and I'm taking those ducks. So I didn't care that it was a terrible movie. But if you get a chance to watch it, you must because it is so bizarre. And so I took the ducks, we made a replica of the Duck Palace, and we took the ducks on Delta Airlines. And it was and I ended up turning it into a whole world duck tour where we had duck tour jackets and things like that. And but the original duck trainer, and I'll come back to that, he couldn't go. So that was Mr. Pembroke. So I took another duck trainer who was an apprentice. And so he and I went out to LA. We stayed at the hotel where Pretty Woman was filmed. And that's where Camino Real goes in, but I don't know if you know that. It's like a brick street. And so the ducks were going to we were going to get the ducks, and we got to LA. We were going to have them go down Camino Real for a photo shoot. And so the ducks and I were ready. The PR director at the hotel was ready. Well, this new duck trainer, had gone to tour Universal Studios and he got stuck in traffic. And so he couldn't make it back for the all the media were there, by the way. There were probably 25 media ready with their their cameras, and the cameras were rolling, the video cameras. And what happened next was everybody's lined up, and of course that was before cell phones. Everybody's lined up. And so I said, well, all you have to do, I got I don't know, the bellman at that hotel. And I said, all you have to do is we let the ducks out and they'll go down to the end of the carpet and they'll come right back. Well, that's not what happens. When you let these ducks out, they go down the carpet. Well, a lot of their wings had, they clipped their wings in the Peabody so they won't fly away. Well, one or two of the ducks' wings had not, they had grown back. And so they could fly. So here we are with all these people and the cameras, and the ducks get out. They're walking down, just doing a great job. Well, two of them fly off down the corner into a parking garage, and the woman who is head of the PR of the hotel says, "Grab a duck." And so everybody's trying to grab the ducks. I mean, it was chaos. The Hollywood Reporter photographs the whole thing. It's on the front page the next day. I have a headache for 2 months after that because I was so horrified. I was 26 years old. And so they get all the ducks back. We have not even done the event, which is that night. And so we end up getting all the ducks back. And that night we do this amazing event with, we have a whole band playing uh, King Cotton March. So things like that, really bring me a lot of joy of how I thought it was the end of the world that those ducks had flown off. But
You probably got more publicity than if you just, sometimes.
exactly. So that was the whole gist of it. But the backstory is the original Peabody duck trainer and working at the Peabody, uh, it was completely sexual harassment. The Peabody duck trainer would come up to me, literally grab my boobs and say, "Hey, RP," he called me the RP woman. He's like, you know, "Hello." And you're just like, "Okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this?" And then one of the general managers would, slap me on the butt and say, you know, "You need to move your money changer more when you're walking through the lobby." So, but this was just normal. This was like you just had to be a gracious person to you either quit, but when you need a job, you can't quit. And that's, I think, a lot of it is, and every time I do hear that, oh, that's how she got the position, is that she slept with so and so, I rarely believe that. And I think that's my message to people is, don't always believe that, because it's not usually true. It's a way to lessen the value of how that woman got ahead. And so I feel like I have a couple of more books in me. What I'm doing now is I'm interviewing a lot of women and men. I've been doing that all through the pandemic. I did research around the finalists for the Cinderella to CEO story. But in the corporate world, we learn very quickly to push a lot of what we really want to say down. And as a corporate communications director, a lot of my job has always been to give people the talking points, right? So I think it's for me, and I hope a lot more corporate women do get out of this box that we tend to be in, because it's so freeing to be around other authors and writers who are freely expressing yourselves. And I think the book is fun. If you have somebody going into the corporate world for their first job, or maybe they're mid-level and are trying to figure out what to do, I've had a lot of people tell me that they've appreciated it, and it's kind of a fun read, and it looks good on a coffee table too, or in your bathroom.
We really show the cover. We really
Okay, good.
appreciate it, but we're out of time.
I figured that. My God, I'm talking too much, but it was fun. Thank you for having me.
No, we love you. Stick around because we're really excited. Next up.